Welcome to Freelancers. This is my podcast voice. In this podcast, I guess, the video podcast, however you're watching it, we chat with other freelancers and get questions to all of your burning answers. So today I am joined by former part-time Droi Media employee and freelancer, and she lives nearby. Samantha Brinkman. Hi, Sam. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me on the podcast. This is actually my first time ever being on a podcast, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, great. Well, I will make it worth your while.
Cool.
I'm arguably one of the best hosts of a podcast.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Central Illinois-based freelance podcast.
Okay, cool.
So, Sam, really thank you for joining me. I know that you've got to do some work here in a little bit. But so Sam, you tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you're a young woman and you kind of have just started out, but aside from that, what's going on? Tell me, what's the Sam history?
Cool. So I have a lot of things in my history of things that I've done. So I actually just graduated from Illinois State University in the midst of this pandemic. It's been a lot of fun. So I got to see myself graduate virtually, which is pretty crazy, but so I've spent a lot of time in college freelancing, working for just kind of, TV 10 news with ISU. I don't know how familiar people will be with that, but, I worked at the newspaper. I worked for Redbird Productions, which did like the ESPN Plus productions of all of the sporting events at ISU, and trickled within there. I worked for a couple companies like Droi Media, for example, video editing. CSM Media, which is kind of more of a live event production team that I was a part of, that I would just get random events every so often, from banquets to esports conventions, etc. But so I graduated and now I am a newscast director at the station here in Champaign. I actually technically work for KHQA, which is out of Quincy, but I'm just directing the shows out of Champaign. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's crazy having a full-time job, and I feel very grateful getting one, during right now.
Yeah. And Sam, do you still freelance a little bit on the side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I actually moved to Champaign because I wanted to start freelancing for the crews that work for the U of I sporting event teams, just because I love doing it so much at ISU for Redbird Productions. And I know that U of I is kind of a step up from there, being the Big Ten and everything. But then coronavirus hit, and who knows what's even happening with sports anymore. So maybe by the fall time, maybe I could start doing like basketball or something. But I'd like to operate camera. I've coiled cables and stuff for freelancing. I'm pretty much open to anything. So
yeah, hopefully this will. Honestly, I'm not a big like sports fan. Anyone that knows that, but I think that I do remember doing camera operating in college for the hockey team there in Bloomington Normal, and then all the athletic events, and I enjoyed it a lot. But I would assume that this might give more. I think that like more things might go virtual.
True.
Now, rather than or there's going to be maybe more of a need for it, perhaps. So hopefully that'll work out in your favor in that regard.
Yeah, that is honestly a good point. I didn't think about it that way, because the UC, like I just watched the first like NBA game that happened, and they had all the fans on like the LED boards and everything and stuff, and it's like you need a bunch of cameras, and that's honestly freelancers probably putting up those boards and things, like that's, at CSM, that's what we had to do. Is they had a big LED board set up, and you have these 50-pound panels that you'd have to lug around and put together and piece together one by one. And just like seeing that, I was like, yeah, it's probably honestly what they're doing, is just got a bunch of people putting together these boards, because it's weird that, I don't know, it's weird that they have prioritized like stands that much to be able to put them in there. And it's like, it's through Zoom, I believe, too. Actually, it's they like allow you to like cheer and stuff and make noise in the stadium. Like, I don't know, crazy.
I can't wait to see the virtual kiss cams and
yeah, right.
that. So Sam, I want to kind of like my main kind of question or focus that I want to talk about is, you've very recently graduated from college, and I think for a lot of us that do freelancing, or maybe know that we want to get into freelancing, we start in college a little bit. How and when did you decide that you might want to pursue freelancing on some level?
Yeah. So actually, in one of my first introductory like TV production courses with Ben Lin, amazing. I love him. Like he was like a great professor. I never even really heard of the term freelancing before. I've heard it like tossed around, but not in the context of how he described it and everything. And he would tell us like, yeah, so I freelance for college football. I'm the drone operator. I'm the camera that follows the kickoff and does like this kind of stuff. And like he said he showed us how to make invoices, like how to find work, like the best ways to do that and everything. And that was kind of my introductory thing. And the cool thing about freelancing, like that he told us, was like you get to branch out into things that you never even thought that you would be a part of. So like you're not, the cool thing about freelancing is that you're not just stuck working at the same place 40 hours a week, which I mean I am now. I really enjoy my job, but freelancing allows you to just pick your schedule and choose when you want to work and choose where you want to work. And I found that really cool. So then I started asking other professors like, hey, like, do you know anything I can freelance for? They're like, Redbird Productions is kind of freelance. Like you're on a payroll at a time, but it's like whenever they send out crew requests, you don't have to say, I have to work every game. Like you can choose like, okay, I'm going to work this football game. I'm interested in graphics, so I'm going to run graphics for basketball. Like you have so much choice. You can say, hey, I prefer doing this, and they'll kind of work with you based off of like your skill set. So I just thought it would be beneficial to, kind of branch out and do things that I didn't think I was going to do, like Redbird Productions. Like honestly, you said that you aren't super into sports, and I honestly wasn't super into sports until I started freelancing, and I was like,
Oh,
ooh, this is kind of fun. Like, you're sitting there during a close game, like running camera, just getting like crazy shots of people like, yeah, like we're winning the game, and it's like those moments that I don't know. I never thought I would like sports, but after like starting to freelance, I was like, this is kind of fun. And it's partly something that I want to do like for my career is eventually like work for like a sports team or something.
cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
even though you have a kind of a 40-hour a week traditional job,
Mhm.
I think when I had worked in news, one of the things I liked about it, it was very different.
Mhm.
So you're not quite freelancing, but you're also dealing with different stuff every single.
Every day.
You have news, yeah, you have sports, yeah, you have weather.
Right.
Like those stories are all so different. So
Absolutely.
I think that that's kind of neat. And yeah, I think one of the things that I grew up in a small town, and I didn't know that like
Same.
video production was a career. It was
Exactly.
be like a teacher or a lawyer or a farmer or all the careers that you have in like the game of life.
Yeah.
And then I got into college and was like, oh, this is really neat. I want to pursue this more. Um, and yeah, it kind of like snowballed from there. And that's one of the things I love about it is like all the weird stuff that you get to do, um, every day or
Yeah.
week or once a month or whatever.
Yeah. I totally agree.
So one of the things that I'm kind of curious how you've done it is, how were you able to maybe balance, all of your personal stuff aside, like going to class and like trying to maintain friendships and relationships. How did you balance like working these multiple gigs? Because like you said, I think one of the best things about freelancing is you can kind of pick and choose if you want to. But how did you balance working for all those? I mean, you had stuff that you worked from. For me, you had the CSM and a couple of other things.
Yeah, I mean, definitely difficult. There were weekends, where my friends would be like, "Hey, we're all gonna hang out and do this," and it's like a lot of freelancing gigs. They'll schedule you weeks in advance. You'll know about, like I knew about projects for a while, and something for like video editing for you guys, for example, like that is such a different schedule because I can wake up, do it at midnight if I wanted to because I'm working from home basically. But like I remember, for example, there was a weekend where I was working an esports convention for CSM media, and they were like, yeah, you're going to be working like 15-hour days. Like you're going to wake up at 6:30. You got to be here at 6:45. We're going to be here until 11 at night. And so it's like, it's one of those things where you have to know that you might not be able to hang out with your friends as much, but being able to keep that communication with your friends, texting them like, hey, well, we could do something, on Tuesday night, we could go get coffee. It doesn't have to be exactly what they planned to do, but just I don't know. And it's just so beneficial though in the end though. I feel like I benefited a lot in a way working as much as I did, just because I mean I got a job right out of college. I feel so grateful for that, and I feel like partly the fact that I spent so much time in college making sure that I was doing all these odd jobs and getting my experience, and I feel like that helped a lot. So um yeah, definitely probably could have hung out with my friends a little more in college, but you know, they're still my friends, so that's all that matters really. I felt like I was able to still stay connected with them even for all the hours that I put in
Yeah.
during weekends and things.
Yeah, I think that's a really tough aspect of it. And I mean, you probably have met some friends through this,
Also that.
which is really nice. You know, people that you get to share all the like silly, weird freelance stuff with or video production stuff with,
Exactly.
you know, which is great. But also, and that was one of the things I think you touched on it is like, you know, that I think if you want to do really well, and you were just, I'm like not a lucky person, so I'm not going to catch a good break. So I'm like, well, I need to be better than the next person in line. And
Exactly.
the easiest way to do that was like just working more, frankly. You know, so I would have those nights and weekends where I'd work long hours, and you know, you come in and maybe try to squeeze in. I mean, frankly, try to squeeze in like a couple of beers with your friends, but like,
Exactly.
um, you know, but it's like the end of the night and everyone's tired or whatever, and you're beat from working a 15-hour day. And then, you know, guess what? If you work a 15-hour day for one client or one freelancer or whatever, the next day, your next freelancer or your next client doesn't care that you just worked,
That you just worked.
care how tired you are. They need you to also work and do that stuff. And uh,
Yeah.
that can be really tough. So, but you have, uh, so you know, that maintaining relationships thing is really tough. So you also, from what I remember, you did you used to like, you were like did some filming or short films or skits with some roommates of yours,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of like knowing people that are kind of interested in the same thing.
Mhm.
How did that come about? Were you guys just sitting around one day and were like, hey, we should maybe just make some videos or what?
Honestly, kind of. So, I met my roommates my freshman year of college, actually through the Normal Theater. I remember seeing on actually the marquee outside of the Normal Theater. That sounds like so archaic now. Like I saw that they were having a show because I walked by the theater. It's like you usually
Uh,
find things about like Facebook market, you know, like on Facebook or something.
yeah.
But I saw that they were having a stand-up comedy show. So a friend of mine and we went to the Normal Theater and saw some people doing stand up. Ended up being some of my very closest friends that I made in college, but ended up meeting up. And then as we discussed things, you know, it's like we all kind of found out together that, oh, Max is really good at writing, Mason's really good at writing, they're both great at acting, I'm great at filming, Griffin's good at editing, and or I'm also good at editing as well. I did some editing too, but
I can
um
attest.
yeah, Griffin knew kind of more of the visual effects sort of things. And after that all kind of came together, we were like, we have the perfect mix to be able to make it like a YouTube channel and start, you know, just pumping out content and just like stuff to do to, you know, waste time. We ended up moving in together, which made the process a lot easier because we could all, you know, actually show up to crew times on time whenever we were actually filming things, because we could just go knock on the door and be like, wake up, we're going to film today. Like, but that was just kind of more of a, you know, like we would like to eventually, we're still a group together, although we don't live together, but we would still like to be able to make, we have like Netflix series, for example, that we have like 8 episodes like planned out that in the future, whenever we have more resources and things that we would like to make. But for the time being, it was just fun to be able to have a creative outlet like that where we just get a bunch of people that enjoy doing comedy together to just make stupid videos for fun,
Cool.
and it's experience at the same time too, you know.
Yeah, that was actually kind of my next question is like, how is that, um, you know, has that helped at all or has that been beneficial to you at all?
So I feel very grateful for my education that I got. Roll birds. I love ISU, but I feel that sometimes just going out and doing things on your own is so much better than just being taught it. You know, it's like I learned more about like how to manually operate a camera by just doing it and like, you know, making videos on my own than I did ever just sitting in a classroom having someone tell you like the aperture will do this, and in iris like you got to make sure that that's like low, you know, like I don't know. But and it's just like messing around, it's just trial and error, you know, like we'll put out a video and put it on YouTube, and we don't get like a ton of views or anything, but we're able to watch it and be like, I wish we would have done this instead. And so then for next video, you can say like, you can put the lamp up here instead of like where we had it, or maybe we could do a cool thing with like the audio where we, make it sound like they're actually on a phone instead of just like regular audio. It's like, there's just so much that you can learn, and also learning from your peers too is really beneficial, because Max and Griffin knew stuff that I didn't know that they were able to teach me as well.
Cool. Yeah, I like that aspect of it's kind of like I can't remember what they call it, like the wisdom of crowds or something, where like if you get 4 people together, your collective knowledge is obviously bigger than just any single one of you, and you can like solve problems differently and more instantly. So that's really cool. And yeah, we'll give you a chance to shamelessly plug your YouTube channel.
Oh, awesome. Cool.
So, I mean, I was also kind of wondering too, like, if, that's for a certain career trajectory, it's nice that you can be like, hey, I've got this like silly skit about a roommate that got murdered, or like
yeah.
The one, I can't remember the one that like with the apartment and there was a murdered person.
Oh, a yard sale?
Yeah. Laughing so hard when the person kicked
the hand out of the way.
I remember laughing so hard when I saw that, which I think you had sent me when I was looking for a freelance editor, and you had come very highly recommended from some of our former teachers, and you had sent that over. And I'm like, I am of the personality where I'm like, it's great. I see that you're doing stuff. It doesn't, in my opinion, like that's more important than seeing something that's like some high end, like, looks like the BBC shot it or something,
right.
gorgeous documentary footage. But also, I mean, there are clients where like you would not want to send them.
Exactly. No. I have, yeah.
Or portfolio.
Right. I have specific like resumes and reels that cut out like my YouTube channel and stuff, just because I know that it's definitely more adult content, but I like to be able to have that sort of stuff for other clients in the future that are like, I want someone who can edit fast paced, like good with timing, good with like dialogue and stuff. And it's like, even though it is technically adult content, it's like I can still use it to be like, okay, so for this video we made it look like it was an 80s music video by buying a VTR machine and editing the video, running it through there, and then just having an authentic filter on top of it, and it's like, it's a stupid video, but the skills that went into making it are really vital and important, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And also I learned to edit video on a VTR machine.
Nice.
That's how
that's crazy.
And I back to the theater and see the marquee, and I'd go buy something from the soda shop or whatever. I don't know what they call them.
Yeah.
And then I'd go edit on the VT machine.
Dang.
Tape to tape. It was the worst.
Yeah, and we just bought ours on eBay for like a couple, like $20 probably, when they were probably a lot more expensive whenever you were editing on them.
$50,000 back in the day. So anyway, that's really funny, and really fun, and I think that like I share the same sentiments honestly with with it's important to do that sort of stuff, and as a freelancer, I think those skills can translate to different industries, regardless of what you're working on, whether it's, you might have filmed something that's kind of like adult oriented. It's, and when we're saying adult oriented, you're not making like adult films.
Exactly.
There's like swear words and
yeah,
rated R.
Yeah, like gore sometimes, maybe fake blood, like
rated R stuff is what we're talking about.
Cool.
So
thank you for clarifying.
In case anyone is just
they're like, whoa, okay.
My audience is mostly perverts, so I have to clarify a lot of this.
Yeah, cool.
So thank you to all the perverts watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Those skills I think translate really well to across the board, like you mentioned, where like, hey, I learned this skill set. It might not, we might not be making some goofy skit, but hey, here's how we can maybe do like a dramatic reenactment this way, or
True.
Now I know how to maybe do like kind of an 80s vibe feel short film, in that regard. And I think that's really cool, and I think it's a really good way to like push yourself and learn new skills.
I agree.
And I don't, I'm to that point where I have a lot of stuff I don't show people.
Me too.
reel or portfolio, but most of it is like stuffier client-based work. Like no one wants to see my DIY videos when
Right.
they're like, for freelancing, for freelancing. And I'm like, well, I made my own motorized slider. No one cares.
Yeah, and people that, are in the field will be like, "That's super cool," but like, you show your family member and they're like, "What does that even do? Why would you use that?"
But so one of the things that I also want to know about is, is finding, you've mentioned that, you got a couple of these things, and balanced some of these additional clients, and you even have some maybe additional or some separate portfolios or demo reels or whatever.
Yeah.
How have you, been able to find like different clients starting out? Like I said, I know how I did it 15 years ago in college.
Mhm.
But what are some of the ways that you were just kind of able to land some of your first clients, and even maybe continue to land clients?
It takes a lot of work. Some people, have the luck of just being able to have work kind of fall in their lap, but it's like for my job, which I know isn't technically freelancing, it's like you can ask Laura at TV10 this, but I was texting her in November saying like, "Hey, do you know people that work here? Is there someone who is a alum for a TV10 that works here? Like, do we know anyone who works out in New York? Do we know someone who works out in Denver, Colorado?" It's like a lot of it is just being persistent in talking to the people that you already know and seeing if they know people outside of that. Because, like, for example, when I was freelancing for, it was a series called Friday Night Rivals out of the Springfield area. It was through the station that's in the news station that's in Springfield. They would just broadcast like Friday night high school football games. So I learned about that through Kelly, which is one of my professors at TV10, and I remember she just like sent out a message saying like, "Hey, might need some like extra students to be like utilities or like camera operators on this crew. Like, is anyone interested?" And I actually ended up being the only one that responded, which is pretty surprising. I know that a lot of people aren't necessarily interested in sports, but like at the time, I still wasn't entirely interested in sports. I was still kind of coming on the uphill of I don't know if I actually want to do this or not, but um and just taking those opportunities like that. But it's definitely really hard finding work. You just gotta honestly, I feel like the best way to do it is word of mouth, which is just really difficult because it's hard to create a platform of people from the beginning. Like at ISU, I feel like um, I it was kind of easy because I'm in the school of communications. It's like so everyone there is learning how to communicate well. So everyone there is like, "Hey, I found this opportunity. Would you be interested?" Or like asking people like, "Hey, what do you do?" And it's like you find out that they freelance for like Grossinger Motors in Bloomington. It's like, "How do I get on that crew?" And they're like, "Here, I can like introduce you to the director and give you their email." Like, um, but yeah, it's really hard. You just have to be like persistent and just know how to talk to people and just have your work ready and prepared to show them because um, they'd like to see that you know what you're doing. And sometimes they don't even care if you don't know what you're doing. They're willing to bring on newbies. And I'm grateful for all the places that let me on as like a newbie because it's like everyone else is like, "You have to have this many years of experience before you can work here." And it's like, how do I get experience when I can't work anywhere because everywhere needs me to have experience. So
Like an entry level job that you need like 10 years of experience for. Uh,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
I was always appreciative too of those, like, someone would film a commercial in town or something, and
Yeah.
and I do this sometimes too. If I'm filming somewhere, I'll reach out to the local like college TV station and see if there's any freelancers,
Hmm.
or kids that are interested in helping out. And I mean, honestly, like in some cases, it was just like you mentioned, really early, like just coiling cables. You,
Yeah.
you literally just need someone to like carry a bag of batteries or coil some,
Right.
or push a dolly or something. And those opportunities, I think, can be, you can really show people that you're a hard worker and interested in this, but it also gives you an idea of like, how behind the scenes works, because like yeah, production is its own like weird world of stuff. And you
Yeah.
figure out, camera movements. And it's like you mentioned too, being out on just a shoot of any kind is so much more educational than almost any amount of college. And like, I say this with, I've got 2 degrees, and like,
Yeah.
and I love having them, but like but really, you go out on for an hour and it is so much more experiential than, than sitting in a classroom for like 6 months learning about aperture.
Yeah,
And I
I
think,
agree. And
but
yeah, because whenever I did my Friday Night Rival series, I was strictly just coiling cables. I had a couple of opportunities where I could have ran camera, but two just very weird situations where like they just ended up. One of the days like they ended up finding someone else, but then another one of the days like our truck broke down, and so then we had like half of our crew regardless. But like I met so many people just coiling cables. I was just basically an assistant camera with the camera person on the field, but it was a 9-week series, so it was just every Friday I would go, which was crazy because every Friday night, I'm in college, you're supposed to be hanging out with your friends and stuff, but here I am out here just
like,
yeah, out in the 95-degree weather, out in the 40-degree weather, just freezing my butt off, just making sure my hands don't freeze up because it's so cold out, so I can still grab the cable and stuff. But as a couple weeks went by, I was approached by one of the like promotions guys, and he was like, "Hey, like I heard that you're graduating soon. Like if you need a job, like here's my card." And so I still have the business cards from the people that work at the Springfield station. I had someone else approach me with the same thing, like, "Hey, here's my card. Like if you're looking for work whenever you graduate." And it's like all I was doing was coiling cables. Like they didn't see any of my, I didn't show them any of my reels. They didn't see like any of my camera work because I didn't get the opportunity to like run camera. But the fact that I was just there doing the brunt work and caring a lot about it and making sure that I was keeping up with just making sure that my cables don't get tangled up, like they saw like my hard work that I put in and the fact that I would come out every single Friday and they were like, "She's a hard worker. I'm gonna like offer her something that I can help her out with," because it's like, and it's like I wasn't doing anything remarkable. I was just there doing cables.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like that's like 2/3 of freelancing is just showing up, and you really truthfully don't have to. We want to do remarkable things, but
Yeah,
a lot of times we don't. And it's just, I mean, and for someone that looks to like hire people, it's like, I value hard work and being interested in the job,
mm-hmm.
just innate skill any day of the week. I mean, really
Right.
very talented at what you do.
Thank you.
But you, those are some of the words that came from the people when I had asked around. Was they're like, "Oh yeah, this person she's always showing up. She's always the first to like jump at those opportunities." And I think it's really important when you're starting out. Is like I loved spending every Friday night or as many Friday nights as I could with my buddies, doing dumb buddy stuff in college.
Right. Me too.
And it's great. And I truthfully think that that's an important part of if you're going to go the college route. I think that's an important part of it. But you also, it's also really important to like
Pick and choose.
because I mean you're going to get you're arguably going to get a better job or a job quicker, or just more opportunities being somewhere and showing people that you care about the job and that you want to work and that you're interested in it. And it can
Absolutely.
be opportunities. I mean, like you said, you didn't have any idea that you were really interested in sports videography or running camera for athletic events until this happened. And,
Yeah.
had you never done that, and I'm the same way with freelancing. I would have never have known that I wanted to freelance really until I got on a set one time for a commercial and I was like, "Oh, I really want to do this."
Yeah. So in addition to being a part of that freelancing crew, it's actually the station that did that series is the sister station for the station that in the building that I work at. So like on my first day, I knew 2 people that already worked at the station that I worked at. So I immediately already had a leg up and being like, "Oh, hey, Nico, remember me from being the cord cabler?" Like, and it's like, "Oh, hey, I remember you." And it's like already I was able to network, and I didn't even know because like I mean, when I was freelancing for that crew in Springfield, I didn't know that I was going to find a full-time job in Champaign, but it's like crazy that, they sent out that welcome email and then the 2 people that gave me their business cards, they're like, "Oh my gosh, welcome to the team. So glad that you like are within our network." I'm not necessarily at the station that they were at, but since they're a sister station, we transfer content a lot. And so, I'll see people's names and emails that I met before. And it's just really cool to already kind of have a sense of community and people that I work with, I know, and just right off the bat, just because I was coiling cables, like doing an odd job like that. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, really, and I think that you will probably, I mean, I get it now too, but I think you'll notice too, as you go through your career, that you'll bump into people that you've met on other jobs.
Absolutely.
You know, you'll find that there's like a pretty good network of people in and around, what we do, whether it's, well, we both do video production, but even
Mhm.
if you're a photographer, I mean, I'll work on like a wedding and I'll work with a photographer that I've worked with before, or,
Yeah.
there's things like that, which are really, really neat. Um,
Yeah.
in
I
a
actually have a
community, you know?
Yeah, I actually have a crazy story about that too, because the CSM media that I freelanced for in Bloomington, I went to, I saw it on Facebook. It was a camera depot where basically this rental company from Chicago came down and they just set up a bunch of their expensive like red cameras and like just crazy cameras that I've never even touched in my life because they're
Mhm.
so expensive and things. And I was like, hey Griffin, you want to go? It's like just really, it was like 8 in the morning. I am not an early riser in the slightest, so like just getting up to go do that was like a task. But I was like, we get to go like play with these cameras, like gimbals, and we get to put on like rigs and stuff and just mess around with equipment that we could eventually rent. Like they had like a ton of like black magic cameras and things. But we ended up going, and we were the first people that showed up. There were not a lot of people there. It was in a tiny room. And as we were looking, there were a couple more people that showed up, and it ended up being this guy that in high school I used to do just like there were 48-hour video contests through like our arts and cultural center back in Kankakee. And he used to participate in the contest. And we ended up like becoming friends. Like he's like probably around your age, not like much older. But I remember we would, yeah, like 90 years old. No, but uh,
Oh,
he in high school, that was actually kind of I would say kind of first taste of freelancing. Like it was an unpaid gig, but he had me be a boom operator on one of his sets. And then I end up 4 years later running into him in Bloomington. He's like, hey, he was like, are you Sam? He was like, I haven't seen you in a while, but do you remember me? I'm Isaac. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I do. And he was like, I run a media company in Bloomington called CSM. Here's my card. We're looking for freelancers all the time to like help out on our sets. And just like, I knew him already. I had no idea he was in Bloomington Normal. I thought he was still like in the Kankakee area, but he literally moved to Bloomington the same time that I did to go to school. And we just happened to run into each other like 3 years later at this random camera depot where he was just like, hey, I need freelancers. I know I've known you for a while, and I know that the work that you do is pretty good. So here's my card. And then I ended up getting on the crew. And since then I just did crazy stuff, driven to Peoria, worked banquets, that esports convention that I mentioned earlier, which was just like really cool. But just like going to things that are in your interest bubble, like that camera thing, like not a lot of people showed up. I don't even think a lot of people knew about it. But since I was like wanting to mess around with these cameras, I ended up meeting a connection where I was able to get work. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's
crazy.
super small world. So that was done by Magnanimous Rentals
Yep.
up in Chicago, which is
Yep.
a couple hours north of us. And they had actually, so the guy that owns that, Craig, he's from Central Illinois. He's from further down here, maybe Clinton.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and I rent from them pretty regularly. And I think he had asked me at one point, I will like not take credit for this, but he was like, hey, he's like, do you have enough like people in town that you could like, that you think this would be worthwhile for us to come down and set up like a demo or whatever? And I was like,
That's so cool.
they found it. And then of course I ended up with a gig that day. So I showed up for the last like half hour of it. Uh,
Dang.
I did meet a couple of people from the company in like Peoria and a couple other people that were just there kind of flitting in and out. So it was a really good networking opportunity in the grand scheme of things, but it was really neat to see. I mean, it was kind of like a non, it was kind of like a fun way to get some behind the scenes experience in a way, and seeing some of the gear without there being like any risk of like, you're not messing up a shot, you're not
Right.
wasting someone's time, but
Exactly.
cool lights and some really nice cameras and stuff like that there. So that's really cool. And I think that after you and I had chatted the first time, I found out that we had like missed each other.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was very honestly, I was kind of hoping to stay there for like 4 hours that day and
Right. Me too.
my card to young freelancers and be like, I hire people. Thanks.
Yeah.
You're cool.
Those things are perfect for that though. And it's just like something that I found on Facebook. Like it was just recommended. I believe like Bob Carroll from TV10, like like maybe shared it or something, and I was like, ooh, this is really early in the morning, but I would like to mess around with these cameras that I've never had the opportunity to be able to. And then, like I said, I ended up finding work and networking there. I was there for probably 30 minutes, you know, and it's like within 30 minutes I was able to get someone's business card. And I like things like that too. I'm pretty sure I probably had my like school business cards on me too, that just in case, because I knew that things like that, I mean, other people that are, it's not just going to be anyone who's going to be there, it's going to be people that are also interested in the same thing as me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of 20 and 40 and $50,000 cameras, and like $5,000 lights, Sam, what's some of the, sorry, I'm like getting all this like cat hair out of my shot.
You're good.
At least, what's some of the gear that you started out with? And this was actually something that I had never really considered, back in the day when I had started. And I lived with a couple other freelance guys too, like my buddy Pat, who you met with before too. But you for a while even shared a computer with a roommate, right? What other gear did you have to start kind of doing some freelancing?
So I'm kind of still using the same gear that I have been for a while. I actually just upgraded my computer and I will be getting it on Saturday. I just bought a desktop Mac computer,
Nice.
which I have been waiting for a long time. My laptop's still sitting here. I have a 2007 Toshiba laptop, which doesn't run any editing software. I have like the jankiest like Photoshop ever. It's like a free version of it because it's just like I have Word 2003 on it. Like it is not updated at all. But you know, I have an iPad that I work on sometimes for like editing and stuff, which is what I'm using right now for this. But in terms of like cameras and things, I use Canon mostly. I have a Canon 60D, which I know that they're on the 90D right now. But now that I have a full-time job and an adult job where my money is kind of more steady, I am saving up to hopefully buy a new camera. So I don't know exactly what I want to get yet. I know that you kind of use Sony and stuff, but since I already have Canon and some lenses, I might just do like a newer version of what I have already. But I also, yeah, like you mentioned, I shared a desktop Windows computer with my roommates. It was a computer that my roommate Griffin built, and we had the entire Adobe suite on there. You know, everything that you could have asked for. So I usually use mostly Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop. I know that some people use like Final Cut for video editing. That's what we were taught at TV10. Not a huge fan of Final Cut. Adobe Premiere. It's just like being able to use, like, I don't know, just being able to transfer over files from Photoshop into Premiere is just so much easier than, I don't know, I just don't like Final Cut really.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I've got a project I'm working on right now in the other room on my desktop, my iMac, and it's like I'm pulling audio files into Audition and editing them, and then I've also got After Effects compositions that I'm creating and pulling into Premiere.
Yeah.
Some photo editing in Photoshop. My computer's probably melting, frankly, because there's like 4 Adobe programs running. But it's I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, it's a great suite of programs.
But yeah, so I use, you know, like I've done stuff with my phone before, just like for the slow-mo feature of what an iPhone does, because it looks good, you know, it records in a higher resolution that you're able to bring it into Adobe and it still looks fine. But yeah, I've never been a huge gear person. I know that some people are very gear centered and like, you have to have this camera with this lens for this project. And yeah, there definitely is equipment that you should be using for specific projects. But I think that knowing the basics and being able to just expose an image correctly and, you know, use the right shutter speed is so much more valuable than using expensive equipment. So I mean, all the sketches that we've filmed, I've used my Canon 60D, which does both photo and video. But I also use some of the equipment from when I worked at the Vedette. So if anyone from the Vedette's listening here, I use that equipment very often for my own use. But they just had like you know, like they had like a 24-70 Canon lens, which is like a $1,500, you know, $1,200, $1,500 lens. And it's like, I was a photo editor. I would have to bring home a camera for the weekends, you know, to shoot sporting events and stuff. So I would just have the camera at my house. So I'm going to mess around with it if I have it, you know, and I was able to, you know, film a couple of sketches with that, just in a little bit higher quality, because the 24-70 lens is just beautiful, breathtaking. I would love to own one day, but yeah.
Cool.
So Canon.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really need to switch over to Sony if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like my Sony cameras and I'll
They're
probably
nice.
stick with them for a while, but I also am like, I'm using like a 4-year-old A7S2 right now and a slightly newer A6300, and I'll probably use those for a couple more years. But I used my
Yeah.
T2i for like 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like I could get better images out of that than I would see other people with higher end cameras or newer cameras rather even.
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude, I mean, it would be like this, where there's just like blown out highlights. The lighting was not great.
Tell me about it.
Iffy audio and stuff like that. And I was like, people are
Because
and no single client has ever been like, what is that, a Canon T2i?
right. Get out of here. Yeah, because there were definitely some kids throughout college that I would meet that are like, I got the newest camera, newest lens, crazy beefed up, and then it's like you'd see their pictures and it's like their framing would just be like,
Yeah.
like just not even be able to compose an image. And it's like, it's great that you have $3,000 worth of gear, but know how to compose an image, how to expose it correctly before you're like, look at this cool gadget I got. Like,
No. I get called a gear junkie on occasion from other people, but I do have more than my fair share of like lights and junk, but
yeah,
most of my stuff comes from like needing it.
right. You accumulate it for different projects.
As I've done, or I've like built it or something.
Exactly.
But I mean, like I would love to have a $40,000 camera, but it's also like, why? I'm literally the only person that's going to care about that. And like
Exactly.
Pat and like 2 other people might be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, your close friends that you do projects with will be like, that's a cool camera, but yeah, and
The people,
clients won't even know.
yeah, like you guys aren't paying me money to have this cool camera, and clients aren't either. So like, what's the point?
Yeah, there's definitely times where it's like you can just add like a lens hood onto a lens, and then clients are like, "Whoa, that's a crazy looking camera!" Like, you just add, even if you don't even need a lens hood, you just like add it, and everyone's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I have a matte box and a follow focus and some stuff that I'll add on when I show up to shoots where I know that the client wants like not like a higher end commercial. And I'm like, I don't
That's really funny.
follow focus. I get the focus and then I don't touch.
It just stays, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's great.
no one that cares has ever asked me about my camera really. As long
Yeah,
as I produce good quality work.
yeah, and you mentioned how you have built some of your equipment too. Like I actually have a shoulder rig that probably cost me $15 because I built it out of PVC pipe back in like junior high, and it's like something that I'll still use because it's still like all you need a shoulder rig for is to just have the third extra, point on your body where you can make the video steady and stuff. And I don't have anywhere near to where you build your equipment because you have crazy cool builds and things, but I built like a very rudimentary slide that I've used before and things, and it's just like being able to think out of the box is so important because I could buy a $100 shoulder rig that's going to do the same thing, or I can just put a little extra work in and build something myself, spray paint it black so it looks nice, and then I have a rig that I can use for weddings and things, and people will not even know the difference as long as it works well and your video is good. It's like that's all really that matters, I think.
Yeah, the freelancers are going to notice and be like, but even then, they might be like,
Yeah,
PVC rig.
yeah, you built that yourself, like
Yeah,
that's so cool.
but no one at the wedding is going to be like, oh, is that PVC spray paint black?
with bike handles on the handles, like
Get out of here.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, like I said, I love expensive gear. I love nice stuff. I love new I mean, if
Yeah, me too.
there is a better feeling for a freelancer than like pulling out a brand new camera or something like that, I have yet to experience it. Like a new lens is really nice.
Right.
Upgrade my lenses on occasion or add to my.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have my new computer.
Yeah,
I'll be able to do so much more.
yeah. I actually, I just upgraded my. I have an older iMac, and I just upgraded to a solid state drive on the inside. So I had to like,
Nice.
not like I have a warranty anymore anyway, but you have to like pull it apart. You have to like, clean off and then like take all this stuff out and then like put the SSD in. And the whole time I'm like, because I mean I've got 2 cats and a dog, and they all have like super long hair, and I'm just like, I had
Please don't.
spray things that are just compressed air. I was just the whole time like, shh, and I would do like 5 seconds of work and then spray to try to keep it like as nice as I could. But those computers will last a long time, and they still do a lot of. I mean, I do some filming in 4K now, but not a lot, and they still handle 4K okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll get 5 more years out of my computer, and I'll just, I guess I don't need that. Like, I budgeted some money for it, which, thanks to the pandemic, freelancing is not as lucrative as I want it to be. But
Yeah.
like, well, I guess I'll just keep using my computer, and I don't need my $3,500 or whatever I was going to spend on it.
Right.
But yeah, it's really exciting. You have to let me know when you get it up and get it installed and everything.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I've got a couple of other kind of like last questions, I guess. A
Cool.
little easier, albeit maybe a little more serious. What's like the biggest hurdle you've encountered doing freelancing so far? I mean, and I say this lovingly, in your short career as a freelancer. I mean, surely you've encountered something pretty rough to try to overcome. If you wouldn't mind sharing.
Hmm. Something that first comes to mind, I feel like a hurdle in general, and I feel like a lot of other freelancers might understand this, is knowing when to say no. Because there are some people who you can say no to, like, for example, Redbird Productions. I could keep saying, sorry, I can't work this, but they continue to hire me. But for example, I worked on a crew for literally one game because I was invited. I said yes. And then the lady who recruited me, she kept sending me emails saying like, hey, are you able to do this? And then it's like, I'd be working for Redbird Productions already, so I'd have to say no. And like, some people, if you keep saying no to them, they'll just stop asking. And so just knowing when to say no, which is so difficult because, like, trying to, like we were talking about balance earlier, knowing how to balance school and social life and everything, it's like you want to say no, but at the same time you want them to keep contacting you in the future for future opportunities. So just being able to know that you can say no sometimes, but not all the time, if you want to keep working with them. But that's probably been like my biggest struggle. Like you said, I haven't had like a crazy freelancing journey.
But you're still
that's been like, yeah, like I still have a lot more to go for freelancing and stuff, and I will definitely continue to do it in the future. But yeah, I think knowing when to say no is the hardest thing. So it's like I want to be able to help out as much as I can, but like I said, I do so many different odd jobs that it's like, dates will overlap, but it's like you still want to keep in contact with those people. But yeah, that lady for that one crew just has never emailed me back, just because I told her, I told her no, I believe twice in a row, and then I just stopped getting emails. And it's like sometimes it's just that you can just say no twice and then they just won't ever contact you for work ever again, which kind of sucks because I really enjoyed working for that crew. But
yeah.
I think another struggle actually kind of connected to that crew was, especially kind of working in the sports industry as a woman, is a little difficult. I've had some very weird things said to me. Like I had for that crew that I worked a basketball game for, it was like after we got everything set up, like doing hard labor all morning, carrying 500-foot cables that weigh like a lot of pounds. Yeah, seriously. And that, and like camera lenses that are as big as the table that I'm using right now, and it's like we were sitting down, and this just all old white men on this crew pretty much, and I'm the only girl, and they're just like, oh, so are you here for the money, or are you here to actually work? And it's like, this is what I study TV production, this is what I want to do, like you don't have to like patronize me, like I'm here to work like you guys. And they're like, oh, so like what do you want to do like for your career? And it's like, I would like to be a camera operator one day, maybe, like I really enjoy it. And they're like, you know the cameras are heavy, right? It's like, yes, I do, but once you put it on the tripod, it's not heavy. Like, like, and dealing with that, and that's not for every freelancer at all. I'm not saying that it is, but just my experience working in sports, it's definitely a male dominated industry. So you're gonna get some weird comments like that because not a lot of women work, especially in TV production too. In sports, it's a lot, it's known as like hard, heavy labor. So a lot of like, burly dudes will do it and stuff. And it's seeing a girl like me, I don't have any muscles. They're like, she's tiny. Can she even lift anything at all? It's like, I'm pretty strong, like regardless. And, I'm willing to put in the hard work and strain my back if I need to, I guess. But, and, I don't take those kind of comments like to heart or anything. I know that some people do, some people don't, but I just kind of laugh it off and just keep it in my memory bank for just funny stories to tell whenever someone said something weird and patronizing to me, like I just laugh that kind of stuff off, I guess.
Yeah. That's a really good outlook to have. And I will, I wish I could speak for every old white man and say that we are first, frankly. But even, I think even as like and I'm like in no way trying to diminish, like I can't imagine being like a woman trying to be in the sports realm. And anyone that's watching that's ever thought differently about a woman being in the sports realm, Sam knows more than whichever side of the screen you're going to end up on. Sam knows more than you do, so shove it.
That's funny.
I would get that when I was younger too, when they would be like, oh, do you know how to like, because I was like a scrawny kid in college, and they're like, do you know how to carry this camera? And these guys are like 5 years old with like bad backs and like big beer bellies and stuff. And I'm like, listen here, bud, like, I'm sure that if push comes to shove, I'm going to be carrying that camera a lot longer than you are.
Yeah.
It's just like, and it is, you just gotta be like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, and kind of tied in with that too is like I've had like weirdos on, not like weirdos is a bad way to say it, but I've like had like weird people say like
weirdos in this world, you can say.
Yeah, I've had like people like that I'm like on cruise with that are just like, yeah, you don't want to be doing this freelancing thing, it sucks. And it's like, why are you doing it then? Like, why are you here? It's like, I'm enjoying myself. They're like, you're just not going to do this for your whole life, like whatever. And it's like, you don't know me, like don't assume that I'm not going to enjoy this. Just because you don't enjoy it, you don't have to like project that on me.
Yeah.
But that just dealing with like the negative people that are on cruise sometimes I think is also a hurdle, because it's like I'm there to have a positive experience. I want to have a good time. I want to learn. I want to meet people and stuff. So whenever people are around, there's like, this sucks. It's like, no, it doesn't. I'm having a blast. Like, sorry that your day isn't going as well as mine, but
yeah,
we get good energy
all day long. Like,
yeah,
I love doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you don't want to be here, go work at like a Lady Foot Locker or something.
Go sell some shoes.
I feel like I should stop saying that. I joke about that every like 5th video, and I feel like Lady Foot Locker is going to reach out to me and tell me
stop using our name.
Or I don't know. Someone somewhere is going to tell me that it's like a sexist or something that I'm doing it. Go work.
I don't think so.
Locker guy,
Yeah.
But yeah. So Sam, I do have a couple. I've got one last question here as I squint. Sure. What are some? Do you have any like fun tips or helpful tips or tricks or anything for people that are starting out too? I mean, it's kind of similar to our previous one, because you can use those hurdles as kind of like learning experiences. But are there any like tips or tricks or advice you have for someone that's starting out in the freelance world?
Some of my advice is just making sure that all of the work that you've done already, I know that this is for people just starting out, but even if you have any type of work, just keeping it all set together, ready to be presented to someone if needed. Keeping business cards on you is really important. Being able to communicate with even just like family members, because I've reached out to family members and been like, hey, I'm going out to LA this weekend, and I had an aunt that's like, I have someone who works camera out in LA that you should go have coffee with. Just not being afraid to ask questions to the people around you, because there can be a connection pretty much anywhere. Friends that you just met, like, hey, like, I heard you're from Chicago, do you know this like, just not being afraid to communicate with others and your peers and things, I think is just really important, because networking is like probably the most important thing.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. And I think that if I can follow up on that, yeah, like I've had coffee with or talked with dozens of people that I've never worked with again.
Yeah.
End of the day, what's the risk?
Yeah, you're not losing anything.
Like you're working for this person less, like by having coffee.
Right.
And I mean, you made another connection in the industry, and that sort of stuff can really pay off further down the road.
Yeah, I think also being genuine is really important, and like not trying to, like, you definitely have to talk yourself up a little bit to let the person know where you are in terms of experience level, but just also seeing it as not as a business connection immediately, but seeing it as a real connection, as like a friend to friend or like person to person connection, is so much more important than being like, hey, so I heard that you worked in Chicago and that you work for this business, will you be able to get me a job there? Before actually establishing a relationship with them is important, because I know that some people just want to hop on networking, but it's like, you're not going to actually network with them if your only priority is to get a job or something out of them.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think that's actually like really, really wise advice for someone your age, is like everyone wants to succeed in their career, but there are those people that like they want to succeed more than they actually want to make videos and do stuff. And
right.
The older I get, the quicker my bullshit meter goes off when I meet those.
Yep.
And the more I just cannot stand. I'm like, life's too short. I'm not going to deal with people that have that kind of attitude.
Yeah, and like you said, like a BS meter, and people will definitely recognize that as like that. They'll like, people will literally be able to tell if you are just coming to them for a business opportunity or whether or not you actually want to establish that relationship. Which, because then you do that, and then you immediately lose that relationship. And if they ever meet anyone in the future that's like, hey, we heard about this person, they're like, oh, whenever I met them, they were just like interested in me giving them something, and it's like, just I don't know, being genuine is important.
And I mean, like I've had very frank, off the record discussions with people about when they're like, hey, do you know this person or know this person? And I've had to like contact them over like the phone or whatever and be like, hey, I'm not going to like put this in writing somewhere, but like, here's my experience working with this person. Like they're going to like, they'd sell their mother down the stream if it meant like, which is fine. I mean, that's, if they want to live that way, that's great. But like, I don't care for it. So anyway, that's advice. And it's, like I said, it's very sage advice for someone your age. Good. Sam, is there anything else you want us to talk about, or you wanted to chat about, or any questions you have for me? I went through all my questions, so.
I think I just wanted to ask you mostly about how freelancing is for you right now, or I guess you're not technically freelancing, but like running your business right now during coronavirus, just because I know that what you do is very based off of actual events happening and a lot of people gathering and things. So I just want to know kind of how your workflow has been changed like ever since this happened.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I am freelancing technically still.
Yeah.
It's so different right now. And I'm sure a lot of other freelancers that are watching this is, we're recording this at the beginning of August in 2020 when the coronavirus is like, we had it earlier in the year, kind of peaked, and then it came down as everyone started getting their heads out of their asses. And everything's opened back up, and the cases are spiking again, and we'll probably have some level of quarantine again for several more months. But yeah, I mean, I had several events get canceled that I just couldn't, I either had a deposit on that I had to return, or straight up were like, we had it in mind and I hadn't gotten maybe a deposit yet or something, and they just got canceled. So there was, I mean, probably for me, this will end up being about like the first year I freelanced in terms of how much, and I like measure this based on like how much money I'm making.
Yeah.
Business, and I kind of have to keep that in mind. So it'll be like my first year again. I'll have about essentially like a quarter of my work will have gone because of this, which is not the end of the world. I'm lucky enough that I can kind of withstand it for a little bit of time. But, there's a lot of stuff that have gone online. So more recently, people are still wanting to have these events. Fundraiser events are still really popular and probably are really more important now.
True.
6 months ago or a couple years ago. So one of the things that I've been trying to migrate into or talk to clients about is, hey, you don't have to have this event in person, but why don't we do a virtual event? They're actually really easy to run. And it's less work in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Day of, we maybe pre-record a couple of pieces, and then, I'll show up with my laptop and we can live stream to your audience that that might be there. And then there are other sorts of like websites and apps and stuff that you can use to solicit donations or accept donations from things. So very recently I did a really big one for United Way here. A couple of other, maybe one for another nonprofit here in town coming up, and then working with one of the local regional Habitat for Humanity offices to do the same thing. Cool. And then I've also been doing a lot of training too. So for a while I've been doing audio and video or video, photo, whatever training in person for people. So an organization doesn't necessarily have $2,400 to hire me or $1,200 or whatever they want to pay for, whatever I would charge for a project. But they say, hey, we want to do this ourselves. How do we do it? And then, I'll come in and train them I'll do like a 1 or 2 or 3 hour training session on how to record video on like your phones. Or if you have like, if this office, like let's say has like a Canon or a Sony or something, I'll show them how to use it and get better stuff and how to light, how to like, I'm just using a big window here for my light, which,
Right. Same.
in the same town, because as soon as it gets really bright on you, it gets really bright on me too. So we've been doing a lot of virtual trainings over Zoom that way. It's way different because uh, yeah, I never got the opportunity to teach you, or instruct you in any of the classes, I think,
Yeah.
or taught. But I'm very like hands-on. I want people to like
Yeah.
get stuff on the camera. I want to see what people are doing. I want to like help them. I'm very like tactile in that way. So it's so different when I'm trying to show them. I'm like, this is what rule of thirds is.
Yeah.
Like trying to do this on your phone. So it's different, but it's also it's challenging, but also kind of in a good way. I could I'm never going to freelance again ever. My business is going under, but like
Right.
it's just different. It's when people say that like print is dying, uh, in some ways, yeah, but also the written word is more important than ever. Like stop watching
Right.
newspaper and figure out a way to move that to like a more digital platform, or how you can like those skills that you learned translate somewhere else. So like, how we talked about earlier with like your skills that you learned when you film some short films, some like goofy short films, those translate into professional like
Absolutely.
work or paid work. And like I can, I've got a big skill set of doing this stuff, and I just have to find out how to translate that the best way into a now increasingly digital world.
Yeah.
So far so good. I mean, I've gotten really good feedback on my training session so far, and I just did another one. I did like a focus group on like a social media, like an advanced social media training.
Oh, cool.
Which is fun. So I taught a little bit of that at ISU, and so it's fun. It's neat. I like doing it. And I can literally say like clearly I am wearing pants, I swear, but I'm wearing pants in
Right.
session for people. Would never know. But I'm wearing blue jeans in case anyone cares.
Cool.
I don't know how I got my leg up that high being 90 years old. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, otherwise business is good. I've had a lot of editing projects have come my way, which is,
Yeah, that's perfect.
people don't realize that like if they have a bunch of photos or maybe some cell phone footage, and coupled with like a little bit of text, that can make an engaging video if you do it right.
True.
We've been trying to like get some clients on board doing that.
Yeah, it's cool that you've been able to adapt then and, you know, be able to still find things to do regardless of how kind of limited things are. But honestly, things being limited makes your creativity boom more than anything, honestly. So,
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, that's why I do some of my DIY projects, because I'm like, I'm not like, I could buy a, $1,800 motorized time-lapse slider, but like, I don't want to spend that money. So like, how do I creatively figure out how to do that with 75
limited resources, yeah.
really? So yeah, it's good. And thanks for asking. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people ask. Everyone just kind of, I'm like some, broke unemployed freelancer at this point. It's only partially true.
Yeah,
I spend my time gardening, in case anyone cares.
that's great.
Garden looks lovely right now. But yeah, so Sam, that's all I had for you. Anything else you wanted?
Cool.
I'll give you one more shot at that.
I don't think so.
Great. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful to chat with you. It's been
Yes, thank you so much.
since we had a chance to see each other in person, or chat. I want to give you a chance to for the shameless plug part of the video.
Cool.
If people want to connect with you, or watch some of your videos, how can they get in touch or reach out to you?
Cool. So there's a bunch of different ways. I have a personal YouTube channel where I'll post a lot of my freelancing work as just like examples, or like director's reels of like things that I'm doing now for work. So that's just my name, Sam Brinkman. I have a second YouTube channel, which is the sketch comedy one that we've mentioned a couple of times today, which is called Good Name Videos. Take caution, don't watch it around kids. Maybe have some headphones in. There's some swearing occasionally and just fun jokes. So just take caution when you're watching that. Don't watch it in public or around people that may get offended. So Good Name Videos is that YouTube channel. And then I haven't posted in a while, but I do have a Instagram that is for like my portraiture and like landscape photography, and that's just, I believe, Sam Brinkman Photography, just like at that, just one word. But I also have a website, and I can like send you the link if you want to link that below or something.
Yeah, I forgot you do some portraiture and photography as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anything else? Any other? Are you on the Twitter, or are you on Facebook or anything like that?
I do use Twitter, but that's just more of I just post jokes on there. It's not anything professional. Um,
Fine.
yeah, but I do have a LinkedIn, and I believe that's my full name, Samantha Brinkman. And I can also send you that link too. It might just be Sam Brinkman. I don't know. My name is Sam and Samantha. I use them both for all my social media things. So
Just connect with a Sam Brinkman on LinkedIn.
yeah.
If it's not you, the other Sam Brinkman will help you get in touch with them.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Cool. Well, Sam, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again.
And enjoy this lovely weather we're having, and have fun at the. You're going into work shortly. Have fun there. And,
Yeah.
yeah. Keep in touch, and I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.